Imagine it's 1915. The world is engulfed in the Great War, a conflict of trenches, mud, and endless artillery barrages. But high above the battlefields, a new kind of terror is about to be unleashed. Silent, monstrous, and seemingly unstoppable. These are the Zeppelins, the giant airships of the German Empire. And they are about to bring the war home to Britain in a way no one ever imagined. Today, we're diving into the story of the Zeppelin raids, a terrifying chapter of World War I that transformed the very nature of warfare. This wasn't just about military targets. This was about breaking the will of a nation. This was psychological warfare on a scale never seen before. So, what exactly was a Zeppelin? Picture a rigid airship, a colossal cigar-shaped behemoth, stretching longer than a football field, filled with highly flammable hydrogen gas, powered by multiple engines. They could travel for hundreds of miles, carrying a payload of bombs. To the people on the ground, they appeared like phantoms in the night sky, their engines a low, menacing hum that earned them the nickname baby killers. The German military command, led by figures like Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin himself, saw these airships as a wonder weapon. Their initial purpose was reconnaissance, but the idea of bombing mainland Britain was too tempting to ignore. The strategy was simple but brutal. Bypass the Royal Navy, which had protected the British Isles for centuries, and strike directly at the heart of the enemy. The goal was to cause panic, disrupt industrial production, and shatter civilian morale. The first raids in early 1915 targeted coastal towns in eastern England. Like Great Yarmouth and King's Lynn, the physical damage was relatively minor, but the psychological shock was immense. Newspapers ran sensational headlines. For the first time, British civilians were on the front line. The safety of home was no longer guaranteed. This was a new, indiscriminate kind of war, and fear began to creep into everyday life. Authorities responded by implementing the first ever blackouts. Street lights were dimmed or extinguished, and people were ordered to cover their windows. The phrase "put that light out" became a common cry in the darkened streets, but defending against the Zeppelins was incredibly difficult. They flew at high altitudes, often above the range of anti-aircraft guns, and at night, making them nearly impossible to spot and shoot down. Fighter planes of the era struggled to climb high enough or fast enough to intercept them. For a time, the Zeppelins seemed invincible. Then came the night of May 31st, 1915. This was the moment the war truly came to London. Zeppelin LZ-38, commanded by Hauptmann Erich Lindners, slipped through the coastal defenses and reached the British capital. The city, with its minimal defenses and bright lights, was a perfect target. Lindners dropped a series of incendiary and high-explosive bombs across the northern and eastern parts of the city. The attack caused widespread chaos. Bombs struck homes, shops, and streets. Fires broke out. In total, 7 people were killed, and dozens more were injured. Among the victims was a 3-year-old girl named Elsie Leggett, a tragedy that fueled public outrage. The next morning, Londoners woke up to scenes of destruction they had only read about from the front lines in France and Belgium. The psychological barrier had been broken. London was vulnerable. The public reaction was a mixture of fear, anger, and grim determination. Anti-German sentiment, already high, boiled over. Shops with German-sounding names were looted and vandalized. The press called for retaliation and better defenses. The government was under immense pressure to do something, to protect its people from this Hun menace in the sky. Throughout 1916, the raids intensified. The Germans deployed newer, larger Super Zeppelins, capable of flying higher and carrying heavier bomb loads. September 1916 saw the largest raid of the war, with 16 airships crossing the North Sea to attack London and other targets. It was a terrifying spectacle. The drone of their engines filled the night, punctuated by the shrill whistle of falling bombs and the thunder of explosions. People huddled in their cellars or rushed to the newly designated public shelters, including the tunnels of the London Underground. But the tide was beginning to turn. British defenses were adapting. Searchlights became more powerful, creating cones of light to trap the airships. Anti-aircraft gunnery improved. Most importantly, advancements in aircraft technology gave Britain a new weapon, the explosive and incendiary bullet. The night of September 2nd, 1916, marked a crucial turning point. A young pilot named Lieutenant William Leaf Robinson, flying a B-2C biplane, spotted the wooden-framed Shetland's SL-11 airship caught in a web of searchlights over Hertfordshire, just north of London. He attacked it relentlessly, firing his new incendiary ammunition into its gas bags. For what felt like an eternity, nothing happened. Then a small glow appeared, which rapidly erupted into a massive ball of fire. The airship, a blazing inferno, lit up the night sky for miles around as it fell from the heavens. The crew perished in the flames. On the ground, crowds cheered wildly. It was a huge morale boost. The invincible monsters could be beaten. Robinson was awarded the Victoria Cross and became an instant national hero. This success was quickly repeated. Within a month, several more Zeppelins were shot down in flames. The combination of better aircraft, new ammunition, and coordinated defenses made the raids incredibly risky for the German airship crews. The fiery deaths of their comrades, witnessed by thousands below, had a devastating effect on their morale. By 1917, the Zeppelin threat had largely faded. The Germans began to switch their strategic bombing efforts to heavy bombers like the Gotha, which were faster and less vulnerable. The age of the airship as a weapon of terror was coming to an end. So, what was the legacy of the Zeppelin raids? Militarily, they were a failure. They didn't break British morale. In many ways, they strengthened it. The total number of casualties, around 550 killed and 1,300 injured over the entire war, was small compared to the industrial slaughter on the Western Front. The raids also failed to significantly disrupt Britain's war industry. However, their historical significance is immense. The Zeppelin raids were the world's first sustained strategic bombing campaign. They ushered in the era of total war, where the distinction between soldier and civilian was blurred. They forced the development of the world's first integrated air defense system, combining searchlights, anti-aircraft guns, and fighter aircraft, a system that would provide the blueprint for the Battle of Britain a generation later. The raids created a new psychological landscape. They introduced the concept of home front casualties and forced entire cities to live under the threat of sudden death from the sky. The blackouts, the air raid sirens, the public shelters, all of these became standard features of urban life in the next major conflict, World War II. The story of the Zeppelin raids is a powerful reminder of how technology can transform warfare, bringing it from distant battlefields into our very homes. It's a story of innovation, terror, and resilience. It shows how a nation, faced with a new and frightening threat, adapted and fought back, ultimately turning the tide against the silent giants of the night. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into history fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the past. Let me know in the comments what other historical topics you'd like to see covered. See you in the next video.